Welcome to the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I'm Deborah Herlax-Enos, a small-town girl turned TV nutritionist and healthy living expert. I design health programs for the average guy or gal, including those average guys named Metallica. On September 1st, 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I asked every oncologist the same question, why did I get cancer? But none of my doctors had good answers for me. I wanted answers, and that's why I started this podcast. I want to help you to lower your cancer risk and provide self-care tips for those in the battle. I'm getting answers, and I want to share them with you. Welcome back, everybody. This is part 2 of my conversation with the gutsy gynecologist, Dr. Tabatha Barber. And she's also the author of the book, Fast to Faith. We had such a great conversation. It's really hard for me to boil down a couple of my big takeaways, but I'm going to try. So here goes. We talked about how she battled depression for most of her life. And she's been on, I think, 5 different antidepressants, and she's not on them now. And she said when she takes better care of herself and works out like it's her job, sleeps like it's her job, eats well like it's actually her job, and her life is so much better and filled with so much more joy. Speaking of joy and speaking of faith, she had a quote that I loved. She said, "Faith doesn't make life easy. Faith makes life possible." Boy, I don't think there's any truer statement that I've ever heard. We unpack that. We talk a lot about faith, how faith can impact our health, how fasting can impact our health. She really breaks down fasting in such an easy way. So if you ever wondered what fasting's all about, why we should do it, give today's podcast a listen. I know you're going to be blessed by it. I think about our kids with all the different dyes and the ADHD off the charts and, just, oh my gosh, we need to get back to eating real food. Real food.
Yeah.
And let's face it, real food, it's work.
It is.
It's a commitment.
It is, but it doesn't have to be. That's what, I really worked hard on the Fast to Faith 40-day program to figure out how can I make this easy for women? And really, it's just like eat some protein, eat some fats, and get some, veggies and fruits in there. Like it can be simple. You don't have to make a 20 ingredient recipe. It can be so simple if you know what to focus on and what not to focus on. So, that was really something that I wanted to make sure that women felt like they weren't deprived, they weren't frustrated, that this was easy and that it was sustainable. Because for so long, I used to run a fasting program for years. And women would lose like 15 or 20 pounds, and then they would go back to their old life and gain it all back. And then they would do the program the next year.
Right.
And God told me, like, you need to nourish their body. They're not getting this changing the lifestyle piece and showing up differently. But part of it is you have to make the food situation sustainable. And God did that. God makes it easy. So I really would encourage women to get rid of the idea that living well and eating clean has to be hard or expensive. I know that it costs more upfront for some things, but here's the deal. You're going to pay for your health. You're either going to pay now or you're going to pay later. I promise you. I watch so many people and their parents go into the hospital system, rack up giant debt and bills, and have so much emotional heartache, pain that they're paying with, and people passing away or getting pulmonary embolisms and cardiomyopathies and heart attacks and strokes. You're going to pay later if you don't pay now. So I would rather just pay up front for the organic and the non-GMO and the clean foods. I just would, because I don't want the heartache in addition to the financial impact later on.
And, even just in the now, right now, when I eat well, my energy is off the charts. I don't snap at people because I'm one of those hangry people. I don't snap at people. My marriage is so much better. My girlfriend relationships, like everything is better if I'm eating well. And you're right. I think a few minutes ago I said, it's a lot of work, and it might be initially putting these foods together, but, of course, I'm speaking as a nutritionist. I really have it down now. And one of the things I had to get out of my own way. And what I mean by that is part of my value as a spouse and a mother is that I would make these elaborate meals, lots of ingredients. And if we didn't do that, we'd order a pizza.
Ah.
And so I had to find a middle ground. And so here's our Saturday night dinner. We just had a couple of nights ago. I took 2 cans of tuna that had been tested for mercury. I added a couple of sardines to it, mashed it up. We made little lettuce wraps with it with a bunch of sliced veggies. I made dinner in 10 minutes. Now, that might not be a very romantic Saturday night dinner for anybody listening, but we both felt great. My husband kept saying, "Oh my gosh, this is so good." And I said, "There are sardines in this tuna salad." He's like, "You've got to be kidding. I can't even taste them." So, and sardines are like one of the most nutrient dense
Yeah.
superfoods, omega-3 fatty acids on the planet. So I figure out ways to do it faster. It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be
absolutely.
elaborate. Yeah.
I would argue that my healthiest meals are almost always done in 20 minutes or less. Like,
Yeah.
I can make so many nice pieces of protein and put some fats on there and a side of vegetables in 20 minutes. It
Yeah.
does not have to be elaborate.
Yeah.
And people will say things like, well, my kids won't eat that. Okay, for the longest time, I just made a starchy side and they ate the majority of that and I just didn't eat it. Like,
Mhm.
if you want to make them mac and cheese because they're not there yet and you want to keep introducing those vegetables and those proteins, keep doing that. And kids sometimes they take 7 to 10 introductions before they
It's true.
accept new foods. So you don't have to eat it. That's the freedom that God gives
Mhm.
us. When you partner with him and you ask him for strength, and like, willpower doesn't work, it just doesn't. But if you ask God, you'll be able to sit in front of that mac and cheese and have no interest in it. That
Mhm.
took me a while, but when I finally got there, it was so freeing. And I hear that all the time
Yeah.
with the women who go through my Fast to Faith program. It's just a new level of freedom that you can totally have if you want it.
Wow. And freedom. Freedom is everything because
Right.
you're just you don't have to, go with the flow what everybody else is doing. It's freedom from maybe going out with your friends or, going to an event and not feeling like you have to drink 3 glasses of wine or every time the appetizer tray goes by, you're, grabbing all of these things.
Mhm.
Freedom makes life beautiful.
Yeah. And here I thought freedom was doing whatever you wanted and having to not succumb to authority and to listen to anyone. So I was a wild child. I really rebelled against any authority, any rules. I would say rules are made to be broken. And God had to tame me like a wild horse. And I finally got the message that freedom comes from obedience.
Mm.
Freedom comes from doing what you're supposed to be doing with your body, because when you don't overdrink and you don't eat garbage and you move your body and do all the things, you have the freedom on the other side to play and love your life and be joy filled and feel amazing and do all the things you want to do. So we're just looking at it wrong. I was looking at it as, I need this act of rebellion. I should be able to eat a bag of Doritos.
Mhm.
Well, my body says, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You eat the bag of Doritos, you will feel like garbage for 3 days. And so to me, freedom is being obedient to eating God's food and doing what he's asking us to do.
Wow. Yeah. And to walk in freedom, there's just no feeling like it
Yeah.
on the planet. So, your book, Fast to Faith, who is it for? Who did you write it for? Who's the perfect person to be? Actually, who's the imperfect person?
Yeah, right?
None of us are perfect. Who should read
Yes.
your book?
Oh my goodness. I realized after the fact that it was written for me and women
Mhm.
like me. I didn't necessarily realize that while I was writing it. I was just doing what I was supposed to be doing. But it is for women who are probably 30, 35 or older. You can do it if you're younger, absolutely. But there's something beautiful that comes with maturity and really starting to enter that transition in your life where your hormones are shifting. You're no longer reproducing. That's not your focus anymore to try and have kids. Your focus is like, okay, what's my next purpose in this world, God? What do you want me to do? And hey, I can't do it because I'm in pain. I'm exhausted. I'm frustrated. I'm stuck. And so the book is for women who are struggling with hormones, they're struggling with gut issues, and everything they used to do is no longer working. And they realize that they need to look outside of themselves. They're at the end of themselves. They're like, I can't do this alone anymore. I need God's help. The creator who created me knows how to fix me, knows how to heal me. And when you can just shift into that and be like, okay, God, take the reins and show me, that's when everything shifts. And that's why it's essential. That's why the 40-day program has Lectio Divina. Lectio Divina is the practice of meditating on one scripture every single morning. All you do is read it a couple times, really try to ask God, what are you saying to me through this scripture? Because this is what I didn't realize for decades. The Bible's not just a history book. The Bible is not for men 2,000 years ago. It is a living, nourishing word. God is trying to speak to you every single day of your life through scripture. And if you will be open those lines of communication, he'll tell you everything you need to know about how to handle the mom's group that you're struggling with, how to show up at this doctor's appointment that you're scared of, how to navigate surgery. It is all in scripture. So when you meditate on scripture and you journal about it for just 5 to 10 minutes, like everything shifts, everything starts to change. And you're just like, oh my gosh, God's directing me all the time. He's leading me to this. He's bringing me these people. And it's incredible. And so your body starts healing. You start shifting. Everything changes. It's so beautiful.
I have the best travel hack, and goodness knows, you know how important sleep is to me. I talk about it all the time. But when I travel to big cities, going to conferences, or just going to visit kids, sometimes it's just tough to sleep in a hotel. You're not connected to the earth. You're not walking around at ground level on grass, hearing birds, all of those things. So instead of traveling with sheets, I mean, honestly, you know I'm a little bit wacky, but I'm not going to travel with a whole set of sheets. But what I'm doing now is I'm traveling with a pillowcase. And so what you can do is you can plug this pillowcase in. It comes with a cord. It attaches. I promise you it doesn't get in the way. You can either put in a pillowcase, or sometimes what I do, you can put a pillow into the pillowcase, or sometimes what I do is I just plug it in and I just lay it on the bed and I just sleep on top of it. Kind of easy breezy way to do it. Why am I doing this crazy thing, you ask? First of all, it's not so crazy anymore. People are grounding. You hear people talking about it all over the country. And what grounding does, it helps to connect you to the earth. When you're more connected to the earth, you have lower levels of cortisol, stress hormones. When your stress hormones are lower, you're in the parasympathetic mode, which is that rest and digest, which is really where we want to be most of the time. That's when we're our least stressed. We don't have the anxiety. We're calm. We're peaceful. And I have to tell you, after probably 5 or 6 nights of sleeping on these sheets, which is again ground Lex, it made all the difference in the world. I actually started sleeping through the night, which hasn't happened to me for a really long time, since way before cancer. So there's a new owner at Ground Lex. His name is Reed. I had a conversation with him last week, and he answers all the emails. If you have questions, Reed's your person and he will talk to you about it. The other thing, when I told Reed, I said, hey, the coupon is Enos20 and my community gets 20% off. And he said, they do? So very few people are getting the 20% off coupon. So if you want to try the grounding sheets, now would be the time. It's groundlux.com, Luxe, and then put in Enos20 to get the 20% off. I don't know how long it's going to last. Hopefully he'll just love me so much, he'll just keep that 20% off coupon going. So again, simple sleep hack. And then that way you don't have to travel with sheets. You've just got a pillowcase and they're inexpensive. Enjoy, and organic. Everything does change. So, and that's what I love about your book. I mean, you've gone through so many changes. You talk about so many of your patients, and their stories are inspiring. And what we can do with this, it's we talk about fasting now, intermittent fasting, restricted fasting. I do it as well. And I used to be that person who I would eat all the way up until I went to bed. I'd eat
Yep.
up until 10 o'clock at night. And then it would impact my sleep, which of course I was at that point perimenopause. So it would impact my sleep, which means I would crave more carbohydrates the next day because I wasn't sleeping well. My body wasn't healing from the day's, whatever trauma that I had gone through. And then when you eat so late at night and then you go horizontal, that food and that's those stomach contents can go upward towards your esophagus. And I ended up with GERD, which is
Mm.
gastroesophageal reflux disease. And I really struggled with that for a couple of years. And I realized I really need to get my act together when it comes to what I call my eating window. And that's a very typical expression. So I realized I need to stop eating basically about 3 to 4 hours before bed. And that's when my life started to really change. That's when my health really started to change.
Yeah, it's so powerful how little shifts can make such a huge difference. And one of the biggest things I teach my certified coaches to understand and help their clients with, and we do in the 40-day program, is listening to your body, because nobody knows your body better than you do. I used to think I knew best as the doctor, and that's just not the case because we're so individualized. And some people have tuned out any discussion from their body. Those are
That's true.
symptoms. Those are
Hmm.
messages.
Yeah.
When you have a symptom, when your periods are irregular, your periods are heavy, they're painful, they're not coming, or you have low energy, or you're waking at 2 in the morning, or your skin itches, like whatever the symptom is, it's just your body trying to have a conversation with you saying, hey, what you're doing isn't working.
Hmm.
This is what I would like you to do.
Hmm.
And what you did was you went and figured out, hey, my body doesn't want to eat before bed. And here's the cool thing. Most bodies don't want to eat before bed
Mhm.
because we're not supposed to lay down after we eat. Ask any,
Right.
6-month pregnant woman who just ate. She will tell you, I'm sleeping in a recliner because I can't lay down. Those
Right.
contents will come up.
That's right.
So, I mean, there's so much to unpack there, but the point is you had to start listening to your body and say, okay, what am I doing that's causing this? And what should I be doing differently? And
Hmm.
instead, we go to the doctor and we ask them, and they say, oh, you just take this pill. And
Right.
that's a band aid. It's covering up this message from your body. When you take omeprazole, you're not hearing the warning, the signal, the screaming from your body. And so this band aid is covering up a problem. And then long term, you're no longer making enough stomach acid. So parasites don't get killed off when you ingest them. Bad
Mm.
bacteria reproduces and starts to go in your gut and cause SIBO. You aren't able to absorb your vitamins and minerals. You get deficient. You can't metabolize your hormones and your estrogen and all the things. And it's a snowball effect. And we need to take a step back and realize that conventional medicine is great for acute care. They will fix your broken bone. They will help you in a car accident. They will deliver your babies. Like I had a lot of life-saving important jobs to do as an OBGYN, but what I didn't understand was lifestyle disease and hormones.
Mm.
And so we're just looking to the wrong people for help with all of this. So warning, if you've been on omeprazole for more than 3 months, you shouldn't be on it more than 3 months. It's an acute medication, and you need to figure out why you're having heartburn and GERD and treat that root cause. I just had to
Mhm.
throw that in there because that
Yeah.
snowball effect leads to a lifetime of issues for women, and then they don't make their serotonin in their gut, and then they get depressed, and then they get put on Prozac, and then they gain 20 pounds, and then they get Ozempic, which slows your gut, and that makes SIBO happen. I mean, it's just,
It's a
it's maddening.
cascade. It's a cascade. Once you start one medication, and I have heard that before, but when I was prescribed PPIs, so that's correct, right?
Yeah.
PPIs.
Proton pump inhibitors, omeprazole, Prozac, Nexium. Yeah.
Right. So when I was prescribed omeprazole, there were no limits on it. It was just like, hey, just take this. It might be a lifetime issue, and you just take this for life. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can understand, like, maybe episodes of using it, but I don't want to add another medication for life. I'm already taking a thyroid. I'm already doing this. And I realized the choices were within me. And I had to quit eating, you know, basically until I brushed my teeth to go to bed. I had to change my diet. And it also required me shifting. So I was that person who I wouldn't eat, wouldn't eat, wouldn't eat. And then I would have a Thanksgiving dinner 2 hours before bed. And for my body, that was not a healthy choice.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that I really studied when I was putting together Fast to Faith was, why do women especially struggle with fasting? Why do we hit this plateau when we're constantly doing a 16-8 window or something the same all of the time? And why do we have so much more thyroid issues than men? And for women, we have to carb cycle. We cannot just calorie deplete constantly and think that we're going to lose weight and still have a happy body. So what happens is women feel good when they fast because their gut issues start to clear up immediately. They're not having heartburn and reflux. They're not having bloating when they eat. They're not having all these problems. And so let me just fast some more. Let me just fast some more. And then you don't eat all day. And by 8 p.m., you're ravenous. And so then you're making bad choices and eating and going to sleep. And so women need to learn how to do it in the correct way that actually nourishes and makes you feel good after you eat. You shouldn't feel bad. I used to need a nap after I ate because my digestive system was so out of whack. And I, like you, was on omeprazole. I was on Bentyl for my constipation. I was on the antidepressant because my chronic gut issues. Like, I was on my thyroid medication. I was on so many meds at 20 years old. It was ridiculous. So I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't.
Well, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but I think I felt a lack of control over my own body. And I was just relying on the system to heal me.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we're told to do. We're supposed to trust the white coats, and they have all the answers, and they've done the research, and they know what's best. But I promise you, the majority of the things that we learn are very antiquated. What I learned in med school was the way that we'd been practicing for 50 years in medicine. And the only thing that changes is the medications that we prescribe. The way that we view disease and physiology issues is very antiquated. We are not understanding the pivotal role that our gut microbiome has in our health. So here's the deal. Hippocrates knew this. We've known since the beginning of time. We have an ecosystem that is running the show. We are actually more bacterial DNA than human DNA, and they call the shots. So whatever we feed them is what's going to grow. However we behave is what's going to impact them, and they impact everything. Like, our gut microbiome gives us eczema and acne, or it gives us beautiful, healthy skin. Like, it impacts everything. And I wasn't taught that as a doctor. Nobody's taught that in conventional medicine. And people get frustrated, like, why doesn't the gastroenterologist know? Here's the deal. I was married to a gastroenterologist. I know what the training is. There is no training on the microbiome. It is very little. It's about as much as I had hormone training as an OBGYN. It's like a weekend course.
Oh
but
my
it is
gosh.
running the show. It is your your ability to have health or disease all goes back to your gut. So that's what I want people to understand. That's why food can be so impactful, but we're just not connecting these dots. We've totally veered away from how God created our bodies to function. We're not honoring it at all.
We're not. We're not. And those precious few people that do honor it, I really see them thriving. Yes,
Yeah,
but there's not enough of us.
there's not. And here's
Yeah.
the crazy part. When I think back to my days as a surgeon, I was a robotic surgeon. And so I was pretty darn good. I'll just be honest. I did hard cases. So people would come to me with stage 4 endometriosis or big fibroids that no other surgeon wanted to touch. And so I did a lot of this aggressive surgery. And I think back now to going into these endometriosis cases thinking, that darn uterus, that uterus is causing all this havoc and causing the bowels to adhere or scar to the uterus, the tubes, and the ovaries. And I would spend hours dissecting the bowels away from the pelvic organs, trying to save the bowels. And I had it backwards. I thought the uterus was the problem and that the endometrial growing outside of the uterus and causing these scars and these adhesions was why this was all happening. But the truth is, it's chronic gut inflammation and gut issues that are
Wow.
seeping into the pelvis and causing this scarring and this inflammation and driving this disease. Like, it's
Wow.
mind blowing to me the
What a
day that
revelation. No kidding.
when I realized that, I felt bad for how I had treated all of these endometriosis cases. I Because the standard of care is we just do surgery every year or two, and in the meantime, we put you on a medication that puts you into a menopausal state. When you're 20, 30, 40 years old, we're
Right.
putting you
Forced
into
into menopause.
menopause
Yep.
thinking that is going to be the treatment for your endometriosis. Women with endo are miserable.
Ugh.
And what we need to do is heal their gut, because when your gut is inflamed and your gut is fighting off bacteria and parasites and yeast, all those chemicals, all those inflammatory chemicals being produced, they physically seep through the mucosa and serosa of the intestines onto your uterus tubes and ovaries. There's no compartments in
Wow.
here. Like, there's nothing separating. Our bowels literally live on our uterus tubes and ovaries.
Oh
Our
my
bladder, they're all
gosh.
connected, and people don't realize that. And as a surgeon, I didn't put that together in my head. I always thought it was one way and it was the opposite.
Oh my gosh. That is incredible. So fasting and getting the gut in better shape impacts all of our systems.
Yeah, completely can change your GYN health. Your gut health impacts your gyne health. And that's why I'm the gutsy gynecologist, because when I had that revelation of like,
Mm,
oh, you have to heal the gut to heal your gyne problems. And it's a gutsy thing for me to go against conventional medicine
it
and speak
sure
about
is.
this.
Yeah.
But it, like, everything shifted and I started healing all these women without any surgery, and that was so powerful to me because I used to do surgery 4 to 6 times a week. Now I do none and I heal way more women.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So now I have a real understanding of gutsy gynecologists. So you have to heal the gut to heal your gynecological issues.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Tabitha.
I know we could go on all day.
We could, and I'm going to listen to this multiple times, and I can't wait. So, can I just encourage all of you to get her new book, Fast to Faith? Again, I mentioned it on Audible. It is so good. And I literally just put it in my ears and I went for a long walk on Friday. And even just the introduction really brought me to tears. And moving on to the fasting aspect, I really felt like I knew a lot about fasting because I've been an intermittent faster for so many years, probably the last 7 or 8 years. And I am learning so much about gut health. And it's really making me take a look at some things that I have needed to take a look at for a while. So just wanted to thank you for that book.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's made for every woman. Every
It
woman
is.
needs this book because you just learn to know what's happening in your body. And when you can start listening and understanding what's happening in your body, then you have all the power.
You do.
So that's the cool thing is like, I'm just giving you back your power. I'm trying to get myself out of a job.
I love that. We want you to keep working, but I love that you're trying to work your way out of a job. So you are such a blessing to me, such a blessing
Mm.
to my community. And thank you for being on the podcast today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Oh, thank you. It's that time of year. I love spring. I love spring. I'm a gardener. So to me, it's renewal, it's growth, it's all of those things. But also, after growing up on a small farm, I have allergies and I'm so sad about it, but I've had them my whole life. And spring has been rough on me. And one of the things that makes it less rough is I stay inside more often, which I don't love. But I have an air purifier in my house. And when things get really bad, I'll go inside and just rest or work or whatever it is that I do inside the house when I can't be outside in my garden. So let me tell you about my favorite air purifier. It's the Air Doctor. And I use the Air Doctor 3500 and it is amazing. One of the things I love about it is it picks up 99.99% of junk in your air. It's got a HEPA filter, an ultra HEPA filter, which I love, but it also picks up mold spores and pollen and dust and microplastics. Y'all have heard me talk about microplastics so much. So here's the deal. Air Doctor has a great deal right now, and the 3500, which again, I mentioned that's my favorite one, it's $280 off. I don't know how long this is going to last, but this is one of those products you just want to have in your house for emergencies, meaning the emergencies of summer wildfires or, again, just getting too much pollen in your neighborhood. So go to the link in the bio. I've got all the information there. The discounts are already in there. Again, huge fan of Air Doctor. I have two of them in my home, and it just makes me feel more at peace knowing I've got such a great air filter. Here's one of the other things that I love about Air Doctor. When I'm cooking and maybe I'm not paying a whole lot of attention and things are starting to burn and there's kind of smoke coming out of off of my stovetop, the Air Doctor, when I have it on auto, it kicks into high gear. So it's got this automatic system that when the air starts to get a little bit, congested, polluted in your house, it kicks into high gear. The lights start flashing. And then eventually when it clears the air, it calms down. So I also love that. It can help to clean my house after a bad cooking evening. So anyway, enjoy your Air Doctor. Link in the bio or go to the show notes. Hey, y'all, can you do me a favor today and go and leave a review of this podcast? I know that the more great reviews, wink, wink, emphasis on great reviews that I get, along with more downloads and more subscribers, that pushes this podcast out to people who might normally not even find it. And the reason I started this podcast and my real heart for starting this podcast is that I needed this information. It wasn't available. And so I started a podcast so that I could be a blessing to others. So you're a blessing to me just by being here. And again, thank you for your support. Thank you for your positive reviews and all of the notes that you send me. And I also just wanted to say, hey, keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. And if you need medical advice, please reach out to your team. That is going to be just the best source for you because they know you. So again, I hope you enjoyed this podcast.